Hello and welcome to Surveyor Says, the podcast from the National Society of Professional Surveyors. Each week, we bring you fascinating guests that are involved in the profession of surveying. My name is Tim Birch, and I'm the Executive Director for the National Society of Professional Surveyors and your host for the podcast. Subscribe to the podcast on most of your favorite streaming platforms, as well as our podcast host, Podbean. For more information about the podcast and NSPS, please visit our website, nsps.us.com. So, without further delay, here's our next episode of Surveyor Says, the NSPS podcast. Hello and welcome to another episode of Surveyor Says. This is your host, Tim Birch, and we are on location. This week finds us in San Diego, home of the Esri User Conference 25. And I'm sitting here today with our, I'll say newly minted, newly installed education co-chair, Seneca Holland. Seneca, how are you today?
I'm good. Enjoying the weather.
Exactly. It is nice out here, but this is really a great conference to get together and really see a different side of not just surveying, but the GIS world and all these things. But anyway, we'll get into that. But Seneca Holland, who are you? Tell us a little bit about you, because to be honest, you're a little new on the national NSPS radar, and I'm happy that you're here. But tell us a little bit about who you are.
Sure. And Tim, thanks for having me on today and for the invitation to talk about how geospatial and surveying really intersect, which I think is what this conference it really is able to show us. So I'm a geospatial research scientist at the Conrad Blucher Institute for Surveying and Science, and that's housed at Texas A&M University Corpus Christi. I'm also an instructor of geospatial science at Texas A&M University Corpus Christi, and in the fall I will be program coordinator for our undergraduate program. I have a master's degree in geography from the University of Georgia, and I have a bachelor's degree in geography from Florida State University. And I'm currently working on an engineering doctorate at the University of Maine with a focus on surveying technology.
Nice. Very good. When you talk about your institute and Texas A&M Corpus Christi, can you give us a little bit of background in the institute and what that means to the surveying community and the geospatial community?
Yeah. The Conrad Blucher Institute for Surveying and Science it's an amazing place. We support education and we do research. And it was established to advance research in geomatics and surveying and to educate the future generation of professionals in these fields. The Institute is named after Conrad Muley Blucher. He was a registered professional land surveying and the grandson of Felix von Blucher. So Felix arrived in Corpus Christi in 1849, and he served as the Nueces County surveyor and district engineer. But the Blucher family contributed more than a century of continuing surveying service to South Texas.
Wow. Felix's
son Charles served as the Nueces County surveyor from 1882 to 1934, and then Charles' son Conrad continued the role from 34 until his retirement in 1954. And what's special about this family is that in 1975, Conrad Blucher and his wife Zula transferred their estate to what was then Corpus Christi State University, with the goal of fostering surveying education, but also establishing the Blucher Chair of Surveying. The family was an amazing supporter of continuing education, and the Institute was formally dedicated in 1987. And so today, CBI remains a leader in geomatics research and education, and it supports applied science initiatives and workforce pathways and just so much more. We also have an amazing collection of surveying history housed at the Mary and Jeff Bell Library at Texas A&M University Corpus Christi. We actually have the original King Ranch map survey that was created by Felix. It's an amazing document. It's beautiful. He wasn't just a surveyor, he was an artist.
Nice, very nice. Well, heck, I didn't know I was going to get a good history lesson as well. That's excellent. Because obviously, Texas, for those who know me, I did spend a little time in Texas up in the Dallas area and got to know a little bit of the history up there, but it's great to hear the stories of the more history and how critical of a role surveyors played in all of that. Well, one thing that, I will say that I've followed your career for several years now, and really, I'm impressed with how, not that most educators don't take their job seriously, but really the passion that you show for formal education and how important it is going forward for surveyors. So, I guess in your own words, what formal education for surveyors, what does that mean?
Yeah, so surveying, I feel, has evolved dramatically in recent decades. There are legacy skills like boundary interpretation and field methods, measurements that are foundational, right? But today's practitioners also have to navigate a landscape that includes GIS, GNSS, remote sensing, right? 3D modeling, and formal education equips surveyors with that technical proficiency as well as critical thinking and communication skills. And we need that because we have to uphold public trust. We need to contribute meaningful to interdisciplinary teams, which we all work on in surveying environments.
Yep.
And it also gives us that structured introduction to legal and ethical and scientific principles that guide our profession. But I feel that education surveying is not just limited to the classroom, right? So having had the opportunity to work across so many different disciplines, I can say with confidence that surveyors are among the most curious, lifelong learners that I've ever encountered. They're driven by this natural impulse to say, why is that there and what else can I learn about it? And while that kind of spirit of inquiry might start with a 2-year degree or a 4-year degree, it's nurtured through mentorship, it's continuing education, and it's a professional culture that I think we both agree rewards not just our technical mastery of something, but like the wisdom that we have on the ground.
Right.
So I don't mean to suggest that formalized education is optional, right? It absolutely has a critical place in our profession. But across the country, we're fortunate to have exceptional surveying and geomatics programs that are led by dedicated faculty that are deeply invested in student success. And these programs help future surveyors enter the workforce with confidence and I think a commitment to the service of the profession. So when we combine this field expertise and community engagement, it makes surveying one of the most rewarding and resilient professions I think out there. So it's really it's exciting to be part of this.
Exactly. Well, with all of that, I want to step back to your role at the Institute. Obviously the passion that you talk about here with formal education, how do you translate that into your teaching? What your role there and now helping with overseeing programming and all these things. Tell me about your role at the Institute and how that leads into your teaching style.
Sure. So I think that I am a better professor because I love the research component. So at the Conrad Blucher Institute, I serve as a geospatial research scientist, and I'm the director of the Spatial Query Lab. And the mission of the lab is to make geospatial technology and education and the information accessible to everybody. So my work really bridges research and curriculum development and incorporates workforce outreach. With this in mind, in 2023, we launched the Point of Beginning Initiative. And the goal of the Point of Beginning Initiative is to promote education and outreach in geomatics to grades 6 through 12. And largely, this was in support of expanding the geospatial engineering and land surveying career and technical education pathway. And I know that's a mouthful, but we feel very strongly that geospatial and land surveying need to be combined. So the acronym is GELS. So it's the GELS CTE pathway. And I would love to talk a little bit more about that later.
Yes.
But bridging research and providing on-the-ground field opportunities for our students to engage with relevant projects allows for us to stay on top of what the most effective technologies are, bring those into the classroom and stay relevant.
Yes.
You can't just, read a textbook, graduate from a program, and still think that what you learned in a classroom 10 years later is going to be relevant.
Exactly.
You have to engage in research. You have to come to conferences like the Esri User Conference, ASPRS, in order to stay on top of cutting edge methods and technology in your profession, bring it into your teaching, and work with industry leaders to really provide that extra level of support that is a full educational experience.
Exactly. Well, I appreciate that. Hey, and by the way, we are in a convention center conference where there's 15,000 plus people. So trying to find a quiet spot has been a daunting task. So bear with us if we have any kind of background noise. I guess, today's surveyor is so much different. That's part of what I've tried to say in my presentations and such. I'm a second generation surveyor that started out, really what we were using at the time when I started was basically the same, other than EDMs, was the same technology had been used for generations and centuries. We've now fast forward to 2025 and all of the technology, all of the advancements, all of these things. Today's surveyor needs a different set of tools. Mm-hmm. So what are some of the key elements that you think to go, really to that we have to have now that maybe we didn't have to have before? We didn't have to worry about geoid models and ellipsoid heights and various things. What are some of those things that you think are really key now that surveyors really need to be able to grasp?
That's a great question. I am not a surveyor, right? I am not a licensed professional surveyor, but I am in surveying. And I am a geographer, and at the crux of what geographers is an appreciation that space matters. Our accuracies might be different, right? But space matters. And so it's all about the why of the where. Why does that occur there? And what we are seeing is an expanding geomatics ecosystem that surveyors need to be prepared to adapt to and understand that we have an opportunity to bring in so many other professions into the fold. And I think that's kind of where I fit. And rather than championing a single emerging technology, I believe that the greater priority is creating flexibility, future-ready programs that allow students and professionals to explore a wide range of opportunities within geospatial science. Surveying is no longer just one single career track, right? It intersects with civil, it intersects with environmental engineering, construction management, computer science, disaster response. Increasingly, we're seeing the need for space-based observation. So our educational systems should reflect this breadth, and I think that we're looking at that, and we're also looking at how industry can help support that. So what this means is also prioritizing partnerships across disciplines, across institutions, between industry and academia. We need to be developing curriculum that's adaptable, that includes exposure to hydrography, to remote sensing, to AI integrated workflows. We need not just ethics for surveying, we need geospatial data ethics. So we need to make room for regional relevance and also specialization. So at CBI, we're exploring virtual environments. We're working in collaboration with Trimble Virtual Worlds team to create immersive, accessible field training. We have an online asynchronous program, and so many surveying programs out there have moved to or are moving in this direction. Good. How do we teach surveying in that field component virtually? This is something that we're all coming to in different directions, and what's worked for us has been an industry partnership that allows for us to use a total station, use a 3-wire level in a virtual environment, because when you get your first job, despite having used that technology, your party chief is going to tell you how they want that set up. Right. So understanding the science behind the button is really what we're teaching and what we're stressing. But this also helps us reach students in rural areas, adult learners, underserved communities, and these might not always have access to traditional classroom settings.
Very good. Well, and I guess that kind of brings me around to the question about, and really this has been a push and a real big strong point with our current president, Linda Foster, to really, I won't say revamp or revitalize the education committee, but actually that's what's happened. So obviously what we have done is we have identified so many areas where education needs to become a priority in surveying, and the education committee has taken on these tasks. You are now co-chairing, and along with Rich Venozzi from the University of Maine, divide and conquer all of these things that we're doing now. So from your perspective, newly minted in the role and diving in headfirst with all of it, how do you see the NSPS Education Committee helping make a difference? How can we help set goals, establish standards, and really promote how important formal or just education is going forward? What are your thoughts there?
No, it's a great question, and I would say we can't do it without our amazing, the other amazing committees at NSPS, like the workforce development.
Yes.
So being able to work hand in hand with Trent Keenan and the folks in workforce really allows the education committee to take a central role in shaping the future of surveying, right? We are proactively aligning the profession with a broader, more evolving geomatics ecosystem, right?
Right.
We're extending our work from K-12 outreach to post-secondary curriculum development. We're looking at credentialing frameworks and professional continuing education. So I think we're helping define what it means to be a surveyor in a world that's increasingly reliant on spatial data and interdisciplinary collaboration. One of our most critical contributions right now is the ongoing revision to the surveying body of knowledge. And this isn't just going to be a content update, it's a strategic effort to position surveying within that full spectrum of geomatics, incorporating all these different emerging competencies, whether it's spatial data infrastructure, geodesy, remote sensing. And the goal is to ensure that our educational standards are rigorous and reflect where the profession is headed, not just where it's been, with strong industry support that guides our curriculum. We're also working really closely with national partners. These are our liaisons within the Education Committee, including ABET, SAGES, the Young Surveyor Network, and then the Certified Survey Technician, or the CST. And also increasingly, reaching across the aisle, right, and engaging with the GISCI and looking at how the pre-GISP could even ensure that at every stage that education to licensure pipeline is visible and accessible and kind of cohesive.
Right.
So from supporting like CTE programs, developing dual credit or even stackable credential models, we're building the structure that I think makes surveying education more navigable for students and for educators and employers.
Exactly. Well, are there any specific topics, suggestions, technologies? Is there anything that is, real high on your radar? Not that it's not all important, but, to prioritize where we need to go almost immediately. And I like where we're going with the surveying body of knowledge, but what from your perspective should our priorities be?
My passion project has been and will continue to be over the next 5 to 10 years, bringing down the age of surveyors. We are at a critical inflection point. We're facing a growing workforce shortage. We have too few surveyors entering the pipeline to replace an aging pool of licensed surveyors. At the same time, though, we see our nation's geodetic infrastructure, which is foundational to everything from floodplain mapping to transportation engineering, right? It's undergoing a major transformation. The upcoming modernization of the National Spatial Reference System, or the NSRS, is a once-in-a-generation shift in how we define and manage spatial positioning in the United States. This transition is essential, but it also places an increased pressure on our limited geospatial workforce. So the state DOTs and the National Geodetic Survey have been working tirelessly to prepare for this rollout. But without a robust community of surveyors and geospatial professionals, the support for this and the full implementation are going to be challenging. Mm-hmm. So my personal focus has been increasing the number of people who have awareness of what surveying is and are able to enter the career at whatever point in that spectrum is important to them at that point in time in their life.
Right.
Whether that's a high school student who learns that surveying is available to them through a career and technical education pathway in Texas, where we're teaching it in high schools, and they come in and they see, oh, I can graduate high school with an associate's degree and classes in surveying and GIS, and I can go get a job immediately. Or they take those credentials and they transfer them to one of the amazing 2-year programs that we have in the state and in the country. Or they say, I'm going to go to a 4-year program and I'm going to take those courses with me and knock 1 year off of a 4-year ABET accredited degree.
Right.
There are so many different points of entry, and we need people all along that spectrum.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so I am most excited about offering the GELS pathway within Texas and how we can use this model and transfer it to other states. So working with maybe Kansas and Missouri, looking at how in Oklahoma we can expand this, maybe bring it out nationally at some point, because it's not just Texas that's feeling this, right? It's the United States, but it's also an international problem.
It's an international problem, yep.
So what I want at the end of the day is for a family to be sitting around the dinner table, and when the kids get asked, what do you want to be when you grow up, that surveying is a profession that people actually know exists, and the parents see it as a viable, well-paying, interesting profession that their students are going to have a career in.
Right.
And they say, maybe it's doctor, maybe it's lawyer, maybe it's engineer, but darn, I want surveying to be part of that conversation as well.
There's nothing wrong with that. Because, we keep saying how much, we're, it's such a silent occupation, but yet we're in the middle of everything. We're at the start of so many things and we're at the end of so many things. Anything more that you want to share with us on, well, and I've got to ask, and this one's kind of an off the cuff, the NSPS student competition, we have been pleasantly surprised with the Klein-Collins High School. And I know they're affiliated with you all, and the fact that these high school students are coming and competing with the 2-year colleges, and they've finished both times.
They came in second place both times.
Both, yes, right. Exactly.
So the Klein-Collins program is an amazing program, and I would be remiss if I came in and tried to take credit for anything that was done by the amazing Isidro Garza, right, at Gracia Geomatics, and Deborah Bronner Wasterden at Klein-Collins, who's their CTE coordinator.
Yes.
CTE director, I'm sorry. They worked together. Isidro's son was going through the engineering program, looking at doing the CTE program there. And Isidro would come in and he would talk to the students about surveying during career days. And eventually that transformed into a board position in CTE, in Klein-Collins CTE board. And Deborah said, I want to go out on a limb and I want to stand up the geospatial and engineering and land surveying program. And what Gracia Geomatics has done, what Isidro and Meredith have done is amazing. The work that they have put in, the love that they have put into that program and continue to do should be the model in which we try to replicate throughout the state and the nation. And we are trying. They come in and on Fridays and Thursdays, they work the students through field exercises, which prepares them for competitions like, the NSPS student competition and Skills USA.
And Skills USA, yes.
And so we've been very lucky at TAMU CC to interact with the students for the past year and going into this next year, where their students will be dual enrolled in our classes.
Oh my, that's
They're
great.
They're getting an associate's and an AAS degree with Lone Star, so they'll take their classes there. And the students come out with an associate's degree, GIS and surveying classes with TAMU CC. They take their CST level 1. Many of them come out with their Part 107, an Autodesk certification, and we're working with the GIS-CI. The students will take their pre-GIS-P exam beginning this next year.
That is a heck of a jump start.
They do internships while in high school. Gracia Geomatics is employing several of the students this summer, and when I say employing, they are paying. Paid internships is the only thing we should be talking about, right? Unpaid internships are something that if I see it, I won't put it on our listserv. That's my soapbox there, sorry.
No, that's good. Agreed.
So those students are doing internships. We have high school students that are doing internships with TxDOT. And it's amazing to see the students succeeding, getting this experience, and then coming to 2-year and 4-year programs where they're successful. I think we had our first full circle moment. A graduate from the Klein Collins program who had worked for Isidro as a student intern, or as a student in his college path at TAMU CC, graduated this May and took a job with Isidro. So he's putting his money where his mouth is. He's training the next generation of students that he wants to become his future employees. And that's the model.
That's excellent. Any additional thoughts on advancing the profession? The world according to Seneca, where do we need to go? What would be the best path for surveying going forward? And it can be, like I said, your thoughts. Where do you want it to go?
I would like to see us become more aware that if we bring other professions that are related but not licensed into the fold, we're going to increase our accuracies. We're going to provide data of a higher quality. We are going to create products that are going to be better for our clients. And by doing so, we bring construction in. We bring remote sensing in. That's where I would like to see us go. I would like to see an expanded pathway to licensure. And maybe we have to revisit what that's called.
Right.
But I don't think we have anything to gain by not. We have everything to lose and nothing to gain by not doing it.
Right. Oh, exactly. Well, and one common thread that I think we've heard throughout this week, this user conference, and it sounds in a wrong context, it sounds a little silly, but data sustainability. And the data we're collecting now in the means and methods is going to be used for a long time. I mean, it's not like the old topos where, we wrote everything down by hand and we plotted it by hand, and once it was on paper, that's the only place it went. We're talking about digital information that's going to realistically live forever, and how important it is to get it right the first time. So that's what I'm hearing you say, that we need to make sure that we bring in the right technologies, we bring in the right associated professionals, and work this thing out together.
I agree.
Very good. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you, as an educator, one of the big pushes with our Young Surveyors Network and the work Trent Keenan's doing with Mentoring Mondays and some of these other programs. Well, and I like what TSPS is doing with some of their things. I know Half and Associates is putting on a lot of stuff with the
Half is doing a great job.
The test prep and with CST and with the SIT and FS and PS. for your students going down the road, the students that go through your program, what are your thoughts on encouraging them to find a mentor, to find those resources that will allow them to continue to learn, to continue their education? Because if history's not shown us anything, it showed us that this profession and the technology are going to continue to evolve. We all need to keep learning.
I think the traditional or the old model of growing your own surveyor is, you said you're a second generation surveyor. My husband's stepfather was who got him into surveying, right? And now his granddaughter is working in his company. So that's a model, but it's a very labor intensive model, right?
Yes, very much so.
But being able to help encourage and mentor that next generation is extremely important. I look at my past, and I had, my personal inspiration was my mother. She was a single parent who raised 2 children, working a full-time job, and finished her PhD while raising us. And she always encouraged us in education. Without her encouragement and push into higher education, I wouldn't be here. But my husband is a first generation college student, and we come at it from different sides of the spectrum here, but our appreciation is if the students have the courage to come knock on your door and say, I need help, or I don't know how to get this done, can you help me? It is our responsibility and our privilege to be able to help them find that person who is a good match to, if I can't help them, who can help them with this? If they're looking for a job in this very niche, portion of surveying, I'm going to do my darndest to find that person who would be a good fit to work with them. And that's the wonderful thing about the surveying profession, right? It's this big. And so being able to say, oh, I know so-and-so, and I'll use my NSPS or my TSPS network and see who might be the best fit for the student based on their interest or their geography. It's amazing. And so I have a wall in my office that's not pictures of my students, but pictures of my students' children, right? So they send us Christmas cards, and they send us,
Nice.
Birthday pictures of their kids. And if you do it right, we all talk about the family, you bring them into the family. Well, if you are very lucky, they make you part of theirs.
Exactly. Wow, that's very well said. My last question, it's my standard exit. How does the future of surveying look to you?
I am excited about the future of surveying because I get to interact with the next generation of surveyors. They are excited about the technology. They're excited about the support that they're seeing from NSPS with YSN. They're excited about how involved we're industry is. And all you have to do to feel invigorated about our profession is to interact with the next generation.
Yes, agreed. Seneca, I can't thank you enough for taking the time out. This is a busy week, but I appreciate you taking the time out to sit and talk with me. And like I said, we want to get to know you a little bit more because of all of the great things that you're doing, and we know that we're going to continue to see. We're looking forward to the body of knowledge, just all the great things that the Education Committee is really committed to doing. And like I said, there's been such a renewed enthusiasm, not just in the Education Committee, but throughout NSPS. And I think, and you spoke about workforce development and a couple of other things. I think there's a renewed enthusiasm, and I can only thank you for being part of it and helping lead the charge.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to talk with you and to be part of it.
Very good. Well, that'll wrap it up for this episode of Surveyor Says. Wherever you listen, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you soon. Thanks. You've been listening to Surveyor Says, the NSPS podcast, brought to you by the National Society of Professional Surveyors. If you have any questions about today's episode or any other topic, please email us at info@nsps.us.com, as we are here to help. Subscribe to the podcast on most of your favorite streaming platforms, as well as our podcast host, Podbean. For more information about the podcast and NSPS, please visit our website, nsps.us.com. And remember, it's a great day to be a surveyor.